Let's talk real time. Let's talk AEW Dynamite from a few days ago, Jim. Another episode in Canada. Another episode where I wondered how many people were going to stay to the end. They drove me to the Nick game. I said, I'm going to watch the Nick game live instead of on DVR because of this show.
I think some of the people live in the building in Edmonton were trying to make the last part of the Knicks game. On this thing. I don't, now they're still using the open. Remember the show open when the Buckaroos took control of the feed last week? We control what you see and hear. It was the Outer Limits, all right. They had a special open made that only featured the Buckaroos and Jungle Jackoff and Okody. And I thought, okay, that was cute for the week that they, they did this deal, right? But they're still using that open. They're gonna run with that open. Like it is again, Tony Khan is the boss supposedly. And we know that he's not hooked up to a machine because he was smiling the next day after the incident at the draft with the flea collar on. So how have they still, this doesn't make any sense. You don't have, with Vince McMahon, you had the evil owner, he was the owner. He could do all that stuff. And you had Steve Austin, the older guy that really didn't care whether they fired him or not, right? So that made some kind of sense. Now you have a publicly traded company under the TKO umbrella, but you have the chief content officer, high-ranking executive, ex-wrestler, and member of the board of directors who's also a once-in-a-while wrestler. And everybody in the world knows who both of them are. That kind of works. You get logic out of that. Does this make any sense that the heels that commandeered the show last week, they say they've got a contract where they can't be fired, but that doesn't mean Tony can't call the goddamn production truck and say, play the regular opener, I'm firing all of you. Does it? Help me.
It makes no sense, and they've tried really hard to talk their way around the booking flaws. Like you said, the ironclad contract, we can't be fired. Tony was injured 2 weeks ago, still can't leave Jacksonville. Kenny was injured a week ago, he's in the hospital. But everyone's able to make video announcements on the show. Again, Tony's producing remotely from Jacksonville. So why would they have this open to the show? They can't explain what they do because these are guys that like stuff from the Attitude Era, but don't even understand how the stuff that didn't work didn't work.
Can you imagine how much of a simpleton you have to be to not even understand how fucking Shitstain's writing was? That simple?
I do not think the Young Bucks or Tony Khan have any idea how to write coherent wrestling television. And they've proven it time and time again. Tony Khan has proven it time and time again.
So anyway, we get out of the open and they're in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And the first thing you hear is the music of our little boy, our little puppy Pockets. And he is opening this show. Has any wrestler in AEW history, I'm talking about Bryan Danielson, I'm talking about CM Punk, I'm talking about Cody, who's now the biggest star in the world, I'm talking about any major wrestling name that has wandered into AEW, been on TV as much, had a better win-loss record, been protected and pushed as much as this worthless schlub. And again, visually, for anybody except the dwindling AEW audience, it looks, what is this, a fucking parody wrestling show? Or is this Nickelodeon? Or is this a joke? You can't honestly say that anybody's going to look at this fucking guy and take this program seriously. And that's the first thing you see out of the gate. And he's wrestling Trent in their hot feud. And at the top of the program, right before the open that we just mentioned, Edge had come in the back and been interviewed and announced that he was going to fight Brody King in the main event on this program in a no disqualification match. So The first match on the program is the company mascot and a fucking job guy. And even though they've just plugged a no disqualification match with Edge for later on in the program, these two jobber clowns are up in the cheap seats within the first 3 minutes. And it was 20 minutes before this fucking thing was over with. So,
did you see the spot that everyone was complaining about because it's ridiculous?
I don't watch any of this because it's not wrestling and it's not serious. It's not worth my time.
Coming off Tony on the NFL Network putting over the devastation of the pile driver, how it's been banned in multiple states, including Tennessee, Orange Cassidy took a pile driver on the steel steps. And he was fine. He was able to continue. He is the smallest. He's like Adam Cole Riho size. Although he has a little bit of definition for a tiny, minuscule guy.
But look at that fucking face.
He's no-selling pile drivers on the steel steps.
A lot of people have said on Twitter, well, he's in shape. He's an athlete. Well, goddamn, so is the goddamn guy that changes my oil that works out on the weekends. Fuck, it's ridiculous. Look at his face. Look at his demeanor. He's a goddamn schlub. If you walked into a homeless mission and saw him sitting in the corner, it would not be out of place. So anyway.
But you're right. You know, again, we look at where we are today, and it's not all just because of the NBA playoffs. How many weeks did they start to show with Orange Cassidy? Not recognizing that that wasn't something pulling people in or causing the people that were there to stay. That the first quarter rating was slanted because of the Big Bang Theory, but there was always a big drop-off. They kept putting him in the first quarter, the same way they keep doing the overrun, and it doesn't help them. It hurts them. They keep doing the same thing. It's insanity.
That's what I said. The Big Bang Theory is down now. This is the first television program in history of broadcasting that was so bad that it killed the goddamn ratings of the lead-in. So anyway, 20 minutes of that, and then we got the Lollipop Guild earlier tonight in an SUV with the cameraman in the back so that we could see them parking in Tony Khan's spot. Tony Khan had a parking spot. Oh, right here. And they have the fake conversation that's so, it's not tongue-in-cheek because tongue-in-cheek implies that something is funny. It's just phony. And not phony in an insincere heel way, but phony in a we are acting way.
Yep. And why does Tony have a parking spot in Edmonton if he's in Jacksonville?
Well, you know, they didn't know. They booked that parking spot 3 weeks ago before he got pile driven. Because parking in Edmonton is a fucking bitch.
Has Tony Khan ever driven a car?
You know, that's an interesting question.
Like Robert Moses redesigned all the roads here in the New York tri-state area. He never drove a car in his life. Has Tony ever driven a car? Not to compare him to Robert Moses.
Well, but no, because he has people to
Although
do
he
that
has killed a few cities.
He has people to do that kind of thing for him, but even Vince would drive, you know, from his house down to the store and we'd get lunch.
Okay, and here's the question. If you're trying to kiss up to Tony and really get in good in AEW, and Tony says, hey, hop in, let's go get something to eat, would you get in the car if he was driving? Just based on everything you see with him, everything you hear from him, his personality, his behavior, would you let him drive you around?
No, now, and of course, and I am picky about who I ride with, but with Vince, for, 3 or 4 miles, I was okay. He couldn't really do 100 miles an hour on the road in Greenwich, but I had to quit riding with him, too, after the fucking interstate incident we've told a story on. But no, I'm not putting Tony Khan in charge of my goddamn safety. Anyway, after the Buckaroos were finished finding a parking spot, they went into the package of what happened to Kenny last week. And then a last week promo with Jungle Jackoff where he was trying to act like a tough guy. Man. And he's channeling his I guess he thinks it's in his genes that he's a great actor, and he's trying to channel his dad's acting ability some kind of way or whatever. But looking at this again, at this child, he was a good, sympathetic underdog babyface, middle of the card guy with appeal, and you could beat him up because he was cute, and you could get some heat on a heel, and he was good in that spot. He didn't know how to call a match, so it depended on who he was in with.
Yeah, now he looks like he's selling weed at the Peach Pit after dark.
Yes. And now he just looks, it reminds me of if Marco Stunt had become a fucking pot dealer. It just
He looks like a kid, and he can't pull it off. He doesn't have the voice to pull it off, but then you can't believe what he's saying because, I hate to make it a size thing, but he's a little guy. When you watch him walk out to the ring with everyone else, it stands out. He's trying as hard as he can to look tough. He's a little guy. He's not going to do anything. And he's putting on this act. He looks like a kid putting on a show as much as the Bucks do.
Well, and that's the problem, is that even some of these guys that, like we talked about with Kingston, if he'd worked the gimmick that he looks like he has instead of the one he thinks he has, he'd got over better. A lot of these guys have some appeal in some category that you could build on, but they see themselves as differently that nobody else sees them as, and so they won't do that thing. They won't do that thing. And that's, that's where they need a producer, a booker, a boss. We don't care if you think you're a fucking astronaut. You're really a goddamn fucking football player. Whatever. I don't know. So would you like to talk about Kenny's interview from the bed in the medical facility? That was not a hospital room. They found a fucking urgent care somewhere that probably in his hometown that was friendly to the cause, didn't they?
I don't know where they shot it from. I was wondering. He seemed very serious.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. He did a decent promo here in his own way. And I know a lot of people have said, oh, now Cornette's come around. He loves Kenny. No, I've complimented him on a couple of things and a couple of times when he said something logical for once. And here I'm going to say he did a decent promo here in his own way, because he still talks like a breathless, douchey pussy, but now it sounds like he means what he's saying in this interview, because part of it is if your guts were goddamn on the verge of exploding, you wouldn't be able to really get too awful over the top mad or whatever. I don't know, but you know what I'm saying? At least in this interview, in this medical facility bed, he sounded like he meant what he was saying. Maybe he's a little more clear-headed now that he's gone through this, he's had medical supervision here for the past several weeks. But before, he not only did the breathy, douchebaggery promo type of thing, but he didn't make any sense and he didn't believe anything he said. Here, at least, he's getting the story over and it sounds like he means it. Now, having said that, he may be our only hope, because they're saying he's an EVP too, and he's now decided he's going to make matches. So he's made a challenge to the Lollipop Guild to face Team AEW for Anarchy in the Arena, which will be FTR and two more guys that are going to be revealed apparently tonight in the program from what he says. And so now we're to assume that he'll be making the babyface matches when the Buckaroos are doing the heel shit, I guess, right? In the logic of what they're trying to do.
From the hospital, I guess.
The hospital. Well, if Tony can do it from the goddamn green screen in Jacksonville, he can do it from the hospital in Winnipeg, Caney.
This show is falling off and is such a mess right now. Now we're going to have multiple people making matches, maybe. Here's the other big problem, and again, it goes into the big issue. Tony Khan doing an injury angle with his dad in the ring, which has never been followed up on this show. Kenny Omega doing a promo about how he may never wrestle again and then getting hit in the guts and having to do promos from the hospital, these are big angles that were wasted on the Young Bucks and Jack Perry. Because if you look at almost anyone else in that company, let's take Moxley. If Moxley all of a sudden punched Tony Khan in the stomach and yelled at Chad or something, and then the next week Moxley put Omega in the hospital, on its face without changing anything, it would mean more than the Bucks and Jack Perry doing it. Even though they're EVPs.
What would you think if Tony Khan, if CM Punk had we wouldn't be told, oh, this is a work, but if the story had come out that CM Punk had put Tony Khan in a front face lock instead of fucking Jungle Jack off, and Tony Khan said, I'm going to get goddamn, when he was still healthy, Kenny to do something about this, that would have drawn some fucking money, wouldn't it?
Anyone there, that's the thing. Doing an angle where Kenny's hospitalized, which is legit, apparently, that he's really having diverticulitis surgery at some point, and that Tony Khan would be injured off TV, it could have been something to make a heel over a couple weeks with a good build. It could have been something to cause an increase in interest in the product. It could have been something to take someone who was a heel and get them over to a whole new level. Instead, because of the acting skills of the Bucks and Jack Perry, because Okada is just standing there like a fish. What is he doing with these? If Okada had done it, if they had brought in Okada and they not tied him with the Bucks, and he had punched Tony Khan in the stomach and injured Omega, he'd be the biggest heel in the company right now. Instead, no one takes any of this seriously.
He's the adult chaperone for the fucking children.
So, I mean, that's my thing. That's my big takeaway with the Omega promo. And, he, again, he's not, other than being in the hospital, hi, Kenny here. Like, he seemed fine. Yeah. He wasn't grimacing or anything. It's just, it's all a big missed opportunity. They're finally doing something where the owner of the company and EVPs get beat up, and it means less than anything else they've done up to this point.
And then, after I said some kind words about Kenny's promo, I'd just like to say that he finished sitting there in a fucking bed in a medical facility hooked up to several monitors. The way he closed this serious promo was by blowing us a kiss, saying goodnight, and banging us. Mwah, good night, and bang.
It's got to be a better way to phrase that.
Got to be a better way to do it.
Hi, I'm in a hospital. You may notice I look really injured. Show it, act it, be injured, not just, I have tape on my stomach. I'm obviously injured. There's a wire somewhere in the background here. They fuck up everything. I mean, there's nothing they get right. It's unbelievable.
Well, I want to announce to you that I completely blew off the next segment, but you said you watched it, and I should have watched it. So tell me what I missed when Tony Schiavone interviewed Serena Dee on the stage.
Oh, boy. Let me start by saying, of all the women in AEW or throughout wrestling, I'm always impressed by Serena Dee in the ring. Always. Yes. Even if it's a match I'm not interested in, if I start watching it, she pulls me in. She's really good.
She was a Rip Rogers student for quite some time.
AEW, the last several weeks, has started a new thing where they do this segment. It's kind of the women's cringy segment of the night, where it's always on the stage. They shoot it so the fans are behind the wrestler and the interviewer, either Renee or Shivani. They've done this now. We saw one that was really cringy with Mercedes and Willow a few weeks ago. Serena Dee is so talented in the ring. She's not talented on the mic. And they gave her way too much time, and she got way too distracted by the fans who were kind of distracted and not really into what was happening here, and they were chanting. She had a serious thing she was talking about, having seizures, and it was in the middle of this promo that wasn't working, and then Toni Storm came out to confront her, and then we got the Toni Storm acting segment of the show. It was really bad. I feel bad saying that because I like Serena Dee.
They were trying. But, they were given no direction, sent out there for too long a time, and left twisting in the wind. Is what you're basically saying.
Who's there to teach the women how to do promos? not just in AEW, but business wide. I mean, I was astounded how bad this was.
Well, I zipped
You
through.
thought she
I
would have
saw
practiced. I mean, when you see this, you're like, oh, she must have something she's been working on. I hate to say that, but you think she must have something she's been working on. She's going to take here and, have something to say. She got thrown off. It was slow. The fans took over, and these women's ramp segments are disasters every week.
The end of the thing was what got my attention when basically after they had their verbal confrontation that I skipped through, Serena just hit Toni Storm with one punch and knocked her out and walked off. What has happened now? Toni Storm was supposed to be the star of the women's division, and she's got the butler Luther, and she's got the wannabe the understudy Maria May. And she would have all this attention, and they did that for a few weeks, and suddenly Maria May is the one that's wrestling, and apparently she's a babyface, and Toni Storm's getting knocked out with one punch by a girl who may be talented but is middle card at best on their women's roster in the way they've used her, and certainly not the highest paid woman in town. So what the fuck with Toni Storm now? She's an afterthought already.
Again, whatever you think of the women there, they don't know how to book a women's division. It's been proven over 5 years. They can't book a women's division. They don't know what they're doing. And a lot of people have a lot of really bad ideas.
Well, this interview that we just spoke of was followed up by the aforementioned Maria May wrestling Harley Cameron, better known as QTV Girl. And Saraya is now the manager or valet of Harley Cameron. Why was she in... We haven't seen Harley Cameron wrestle on this program. She may wrestle on the subsidiary programs. And so why is Saraya, the big star that was going to be a game changer last year, now seconding this horrible fucking green girl against the understudy of Toni Storm that just got knocked out, but now the Toni Storm's understudy is apparently a babyface and fucking getting wins all over the goddamn place. And is involved with the new Japanese chick because somehow this ended with her, the new Japanese girl, whatever her name is, getting in the ring to drink champagne with Maria, tease kissing her, and then both of them did a stripper dance. The fuck is going on there?
Again, the women's division has been a disaster from day one. They don't know how to book it. Saraya, who knows? Is it that they want to keep her out of the ring to prevent any injury? Who knows? But
to herself or someone else?
They made a big deal about her coming in. Does she mean more or less today than she meant before she came in when she was off TV?
I forgot she was still there.
And this Harley Cameron, she's got a personality, but who greenlit her having a match this long on TV? On Dynamite. Not on Collision or Rampage. On Dynamite. And this was coming off, remember we talked about it on the last show, their tweet feud, where she said, hashtag whatever it was, tough girl graps. And Mariah May said, looks more like tough girl gapes. That's this feud. That's this brilliant feud. They're doubling down. Listen, they're putting more of these women's segments on the Dynamite. If you haven't noticed, it's more and more every week since Mercedes Moné got in there. They're doubling down on this women's division stuff, and it's not getting better.
Do they think that the existing AEW fan base will be tuning in every week just to see whether the Japanese girl kisses Maria or not? Because they can kind of see that stuff on the other channels. A little bit better with a little more focus on it, if that's the entertainment they're going for.
Oh, come on. There's like 20 fans of Joshi wrestling that lose their mind every time they almost kiss.
Well, you must be joshing. All right. Anyway, speaking of... Malachi Black did a spooky video talking about Edge, and I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. Did you even listen?
No, I mean, he sounds very committed to his act, but it's an act that never gets better. Again, everything on this show is just awful, and it just keeps happening over and over and over. He's in the shadows with a cameraman doing some fucking speech that he's worked on for his weird character. Awful. Enough of this.
Uh,
He was
so
more interesting as a guy in the back with a coffee during someone else's fight than he is pretending he's some spooky guy.
now he should just come out to the ring with a cup of coffee in his hand.
And just be disinterested and then just walk to the back. See, I'd buy that as being the real Malachi Black.
Because since fewer people are interested in him, he might as well be less interested in them. And then we did the Lollipop Guild self-made video where it was all about the Buckaroos and their group, and it was the self-serving over-the-top narration about how great they are. And then it transitions to the Buckaroos in the back at gorilla position doing the fake producer bit. And we've talked about how small time it looks, and it is. And that was what led into the entrance at 4 minutes before the 9 o'clock, top of the 9 o'clock hour, of the world champion, Swerve Strickland, who has also become an afterthought here in this promotion. He came out without Nana, Prince Nana, his manager. We'll probably see why in a minute. Maybe Nana said, after you fucking buried me so bad last week, why would I even walk out there? And I'm not talking about he said that to Swerve. I'm talking he probably said that to the office. But Swerve comes out and pitches to the tape on the screen of last week and what was done to him, blah, blah, blah. And then does the promo on Christian where he tells him, come on out here right now. We're going to settle this thing. Are you about sick of everybody standing by at the gorilla position waiting to be called out to settle things? How do they know? They're instantly, it's every fucking segment, isn't it? On both companies. What the fuck?
Yeah, and I had a bad feeling about this one right away because they have just completely killed Swerve since he won the title when he's clearly a babyface. Once he clearly became a babyface, it was like, all right, let's kill him. And I knew it was coming here. I just knew it was coming because they kill every babyface in AEW.
But when he was terrorizing infants in their cribs and fucking invading people's homes and, leaving them in pools of their own blood, he was a raving babyface. So now that he's the world champion, he gets a shit kicked out of him. He gets left laying on his fucking face, broke, busted, and disgusted, dicked by the dangle dong of destiny every time you see him. Then in this case, here came Christian along with Dino Douche, Nick Plain, and Nick Plain's mom, who's bigger than everybody except the lizard in the group. And
can I stop you real quick?
Yes, please.
My favorite person in this whole thing, and you and I will disagree on this, Nick Wayne. He looks so punchable, and he's so good as, I don't know if it's really him or not, but just, he's got the shitty facial hair. He just looks like a punk kid hanging out with the wrong crowd. He's the only one in all of this I buy.
Well, it depends on the price. I'm not paying retail. If I buy him, they're going to have to give me a wholesale deal. But Christian, remember we were loving his heel promos. And as himself, with this bunch of ragtag nitwits behind him, But also, he made a rare mistake here because Christian's a smart guy, but to try to get heat, he knocked the hockey team, whoever the fucking hockey team there are. And then when he was doing the promo on Swerve, the world champion, they were still offended about the hockey team and they were chanting, "Let's go Oilers." That's what it, "Let's go Oilers," over most of the promo about the world champion. Because they don't care about these people. They care about the goddamn hockey team. So then they said they were going to rip out Swerve's gold teeth. And I'm thinking, holy shit. And suddenly, Swerve says, "I didn't say I came alone." And Brian Cage and Bishop Khan and Tia Leone, the rest of Nana's embassy, it was the Mogul embassy, but they lost Rick Ross somewhere along the way, right?
Yeah, this was the payoff for all the months of Swerve having this B team as his
Yes.
crew. This was the payoff for all of that. They finally, for a moment, meant something as his backup.
Yes. And then he said, now that they're in the ring with me, I dare you guys to get in this ring and take my gold teeth. And then what happened here was apparently several things at the same time. Swerve said his cue line, I dare you to take my gold teeth, but you can't. And Swerve's guys apparently missed their cue because Christian was standing there mute because he wasn't supposed to do anything yet. And then Swerve's guys suddenly jump him from behind while the camera is on Christian standing there watching him, and the camera misses the Swerve's group turning on him. And then Swerve's friends rip his clothes off and powerbomb him. And the referees get in and they chuck them out, shit can them. And then Cage presses Swerve and throws him over the top rope like a sack of shit. They clear the desk off. They take forever to awkwardly set Swerve up while he's doing, he can't fight back. He's overwhelmed and just doing nothing. And the two Stooges powerbomb him through the announce desk, and he is left laying unconscious and immobile. Again, 2 weeks in a row.
He's the world champion. You could tell they started blowing it during the chase. He got the belt. Does he feel like the top star in the company? Does he feel like a world champion? Does he feel like a babyface you should care about?
He needs to switch heel again. That's the only time he ever won anything.
They're blowing it with everything.
It's goddamn, it's insane. And can you imagine if Hulk Hogan had won the WWF title and had this follow up for 2 weeks on television in 1984? And
guys who won the title used to be presented as a big deal, even if they weren't going to wrestle. It was talked about. Videos were shown, promos were shown. Other guys talked about it. When they showed up, it was a big deal. For Hogan to wrestle on TV, that was a big fucking deal. For him just to appear on TV, that was still a big deal. Swerve, they just throw out there and make him look like shit. The world title means nothing. The world title's never meant less. Swerve's never meant less. And Swerve was just killed as a babyface for Christian Cage. Christian Cage!
No. For the Buckaroos. Because as soon as Cage and company get to the back, they thank the Buckaroos. Good idea, good plan, good they set it up. So again, we go back to the children are involved at the expense of the brand new world champion. And then we got a shot of the announcer standing in front of the garbage of the wrecked announce desk, which was kind of apropos at this point in the program, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, then Rocky Romero versus Jay White, the light switch. And I'm sorry, but what the fuck? Again, Rocky Romero is actually a very good fucking wrestler, but he's never been featured here. He shows up every once in a while. And so we're pretty sure that Jay White's probably going to beat this guy. And guess what? Jay White not only beat him, but gave him a reverse crossroads and pinned him with one finger on his chest. So what? After a competitive match, this wasn't a job match. It wasn't a squash match. You're supposed to pin the job guys with one finger. But it's taking you 10 minutes or whatever to fucking beat this guy. And then all right. And then you're never going to believe it, Brian. But after Jay White pinned him with one finger, then the Gun Boys get in and they start beating him up. Why? The goddamn deal is when heels get heat after the match, it's because either there's an ongoing bad feeling or issue, or because they got beat and they're mad about it and they want to get even with the babyface. It's not every time that a heel wins a match, whether it's a cold match or any kind of match, that they have to turn around and jump on the guy and start beating him up some more. That's why nobody pays any attention to it anymore. And then they start beating up Rocky Romero and they play music. And Pac walks out to the ring and the heels just leave. And Pac gets in the ring and gives him a dirty look. In Tony's amateur mind, that makes him think that he has heated up this situation with Pac and White and the Guns. It's got to be something. You can't just have a match. Something has to be done. Somebody's got to beat somebody up afterwards. Somebody has to come out. Music has to play. The more, the better, apparently.
And Jay White's been one of the bigger wastes of money in AEW because they thought they were getting a big thing, and whether it's how he's delivered or specifically how he's been pushed and booked and misbooked, as soon as you see him on the show, it's kind of a, at least for me, a bathroom break kind of thing. Let me go take a break. Let me go outside. Let me eat something. I don't need to see this guy anymore. And he does the worst promos for someone who had a reputation for being a good promo. They had this guy beat the world champion months ago. Do you remember that?
Yes. When they brought him in, remember we said, why? The thing, Gin and Juice, him and old Juice Robinson, good tag team. That could have been a wonderful heel team to work with FTR. Juice had the personality that Jay White doesn't have, and they were good together. We saw the best modern match of all fucking time, or whatever everybody called it. FTR and these two was fucking fabulous. But they, from the start, tried to make us think that Jay White was a world title contender, and they gave him these long interviews where he said nothing in that annoying voice. And people, instead of pushing him and Juice as a team, and they probably would have got over, people quickly said, well, fuck, more Jay White? Jesus Christ. And then they just zoned out on it. And he's not a top single guy, but he could have been in the top tag team. So that they've just, and now what? I don't know what the Guns' attachment is to this fucking guy that, is not really doing anything and probably ain't going to. Why are they hanging around him? They could latch on to somebody more successful. Whatever. What about the next match, Brian? Jericho and Big Bill against Mo Jabari and Harlan Abbott. And I am not making those up or having fun with it. Those were really the names that they were announced by. And I skipped this whole thing.
Yeah, they weren't the problem. The problem is Chris Jericho is doing one of the lamer things he's done, which is saying a lot. And now he's got Big Bill, who showed promise and potential in the fucking jerk-off role, where Jericho always has some jerk-off who, in character, believes all the stupid shit he's saying and goes along with it. And he's trying to lean into the fact that everyone knows that Chris Jericho sucks now and they're booing him. But I don't think he understands why they're booing him. And this is bad. And, we'll get to the ratings. Jay White drives people off the show. Jericho has caused people to fucking jump overboard more lately than anyone. People don't want to see Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho wants to see Chris Jericho.
Well, they did a promo afterwards. And
he's like The Rock minus all the success.
Well, that's a good way to put it. Or he's like anyone minus success.
Well, he's got some money. He's got Tony's dad's money.
We didn't say he didn't have any money. He just doesn't have any success. Apparently, the point that I got out of the end of the thing was Hook's going to be back next week. So, boy, you better watch your P's and Q's. Then the main event finally came up, and it was Edge versus Brody King. And I'm at this point, I'm like, last week we had Edge versus Buddy, and Buddy is the best of the bunch, and I don't need to see Edge against the fat tattooed indie guy after I've seen him against fucking, a poorly named, miscast, held down talent. But I did have an observation. If this was 1986, Brody King would be the Angel of Death, Dave Sheldon. What do you think?
Huh, that's an interesting comment. In 86, Dave Sheldon would end up in World Class. We would end up UWF World Class. That's a wrestler I have not thought about in a long time.
Well,
Wow.
here's the thing. I liked Dave Sheldon. He's a very nice guy, wonderful guy to hang around with in the locker room. But the point is, he was a big guy who didn't have a great body, but he was big, and he had a striking look in his face, and he couldn't really talk, and his matches weren't the best, but if you stuck him in a group of heels with somebody that could talk and a few people that could work, he looked good in the fucking group, and you could get something out of him, and you could point at him, and you could say, this guy's going to kick somebody's ass. But he never really got over,
Yeah.
and he never drew any money.
He always looked much badder until he got physical. Just
Yes.
standing there, he looked like the guy you wouldn't want to fuck with in a bar.
Yeah, and that was true. But he couldn't really, carried off in the ring, and then he got out of wrestling. I don't know whatever happened to him, but that in a smaller territory, you'd be more likely to try to push him because you had limited options, and in a bigger territory, there was guys that could do these things a whole lot better. And I think that's Brody King. He's the angel of death. But they had a match here that lasted about a day and a half, and in some fact, Brody King got juice and bled all over the place, and they had one nice spot going into the finish where Edge speared Brody King's on the apron, and Edge runs and spears through the ropes and spears him off the apron through a table onto the floor. But that did require some fucking timing. Edge almost broke his right arm. You can go back and look at it. And you can see that as he was headed down that way, he put his arm out, which wouldn't you, to avoid hitting the table face first, and he could have broke his arm easy as anything. But that wasn't the finish, because then he had to roll him back in the ring and spear him in the ring. 1, 2, 3. And then Brody King attacked Edge. What was I just saying? This is where that if a heel's going to attack a babyface, this was the right place for it because the babyface had won and the heel was mad, but they'd just done the same goddamn thing in the previous match. Anyway, Brody King throws bad fake punches at Edge, and Kyle O'Reilly hits the ring and starts a comeback, and Edge joins it, and they shit can Brody King to the floor. And at this point in time, it's 10 o'clock, and we've still got some show to go. As usual, they're going to run over, but this time, Brian, I told you, I set my DVR because I was actually watching this fiasco as it happened, because I believe I mentioned that the following morning, I actually got to go out in public and do some things and didn't want to clog my morning up and put myself in a bad mood. And I saw they were going up on 10 o'clock. So Modern Family was the program that was supposed to follow this presentation. And I hit the DVR and taped it just in case I was going to flummox up. But I saw the overrun is what I'm saying. And by the way, do you know what they did? They joined Modern Family in Progress. If I was a goddamn Modern Family fan, I would say, what the fuck, right? The whole premise is already set up. They went 10 minutes over. Anyhow, at 10 o'clock, they had a goddamn pre-taped interview with Mercedes Moan. And this was a quote. She said, "We are only just 18 days away from my in-a-ring debut for AEW. And first of all, put your fucking hands down. Why has she got her goddamn hands? We've seen the rings that spell out money talks or whatever. Put your goddamn hands down. It looks ridiculous and unnatural. Why are you standing that way constantly? Secondly, go to acting school. Or thirdly, hire you a writer to write some. Oh, I forgot. Alexandra Pepper Day is writing this shit. What the fuck? They spent money for this girl to do promos on this TV and she can't talk. And she's still, even though we've just established that she's a heel and the people were booing her last week, she's doing a promo that kind of sounds like she thinks she's a babyface. Your thoughts?
She's a horrible promo, and the run in AEW has been a disaster so far. And she appears to be one of these people a lot more comfortable doing a pre-tape in the back than out there in front of the fans. Why is she always lifting her hands? It's part of her act. And when you watch this, you realize it's an act. It's all an act. It's just a girl putting on a wig and then doing a performance as a character. You don't buy it. You don't believe it. You know, she has a problem with Willow for getting injured in that match. I just saw the footage the other day. She fell off the apron.
Yes, I saw that too. Somebody tweeted it. Willow didn't hurt her. She didn't even hurt herself giving Willow a move. She stood up on the top rope and lost her balance and jumped to the floor and broke her ankle.
So yeah, I don't think this has been good. I don't think anyone's anticipating the debut. I mean, she debuted on TV and she hasn't had a match or anything yet. It's just been these awful promos. And now we finally get to see her have a match, and I don't think anyone's too excited for it.
Well, no, because we've seen these promos first, and if she wasn't cleared, then they should have waited a month to debut her until she was cleared so she could have done one bad promo and then get something out of the fucking pay-per-view match, right? Now that everybody knows that she stinks, they don't really care.
See, she doesn't talk to the fans. She doesn't talk to the viewer. It's just a performance of herself to herself. She's not saying to anyone at home anything that connects with them. It's just all act. And I don't think it's working here at all. And notice it was a pre-tape because I don't know if she was there or not, but there certainly seems to be a difference in her pre-tape stuff and her live stuff in the building. And there may be a reason why we see more pre-tape stuff.
Well, and they probably don't fly her all the way to Edmonton to do that anyway.
That was the old Britt Baker thing. All of a sudden they realized if we have her do pre-tapes in the back, she's a good promo.
Well, anyway, we finally get to the last segment. They're already past 10 o'clock. And out come the Buckaroos with Okody and Jungle Jackoff, the whole Lollipop Guild. They always look ridiculous, but Nikki was wearing Christmas wrapping paper on this one. And then they do the promo, and people aren't caring, and they're not getting a reaction. And Okody speaks a little broken English, and Maddie cuts a promo on Tony. You know, we had no choice but to do what we did because we're going to change the world and save the country or whatever. And they maligned Kenny in Canada and didn't really get any reaction. And they maligned FTR and didn't. And they agreed to the 8-man garbage match, the Anarchy in the Arena. Didn't we used to call that football field fuckery? And they popped a little bit for that because, okay, here's 8 guys in a fucking garbage match where a bunch of furniture will get broke. So, yeah, that's kind of shit we like. And then FTR's music plays and Cash and Dax come out to a small reaction. And they said they knew it wouldn't be easy, but we found 2 guys to be on Team AEW. And Eddie Kingston comes out, and people come up for that. And then Danielson, and finally the people are up for Danielson. And they get in the ring and just start the same thing they always do. Face off, fight. Everybody runs out to pull them apart, and we go off the air. So now we have another 8-man garbage match with the Buckaroos' group against some baby faces for the fucking pay-per-view. And they think that will artificially inflate their lack of over. I'm talking about the Buckaroos. And that's what that show was. I mean, what the fuck? It's more and more small time in appearance and in execution. Because like you said, I don't know that they're doubling down on purpose. I think that this is what's left is the indie wrestling minded people are in charge, and they actually think this shit is good. And there you go.
And we have a heel stable that no one cares about, featuring 2 of the highest paid guys in the company, and the Young Bucks. We have a babyface team that...
No, wait a minute. 3 of the highest paid guys.
Oh, that's right. Okada, too. We have a babyface team, Team AEW, the team that represents AEW to battle back against this just NWO of the nursery school. I don't know what this is. That's gonna
Nursery Wrestling Order.
And that's going to be FTR, who never... I don't think they've been less over since they got to AEW at all. And now fans kind of groan when they come out. And I could tell you, we've seen the feedback. You've probably seen it too. They've burned out our fans. They burned out the people who listen to these shows, who were their biggest supporters, who were the reasons they got over in the first place. They burned them out. Eddie Kingston. All right. I mean, I can see how maybe he would be on a Team AEW. He won the Continental Classic. He may be good in a match like that. It's a brawl around the arena. Eddie Kingston, okay. Danielson. Eddie Kingston's blood feud opponent. All of a sudden, he's out there now, part of the heel stable, the BCC.
And also not only one of the more talented in-ring performers in the business, but a guy with a history of concussions. So let's put him in as many garbage matches as we can.
And this pay-per-view's in what, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
You know, it's not a winning team in AEW right now. Behind the scenes, and certainly what's on TV, it doesn't feel like a winning product. It doesn't feel like a winning team. And these guys can go out there and talk about how much they love AEW all they want. Everyone understands what reality is, except for seemingly the people who want to drink the Kool-Aid in AEW and Tony Khan. And all the problems in AEW, it all stems back to Tony Khan. This was all built not as a business, but so that Shad Khan's son could finally have fun with his hobby. And look at the decisions that have been made. Look at the state of the product. Listen to their fans and how excited they aren't. And it's a train wreck. And by the way, how's it going to change? Tony going to step back as Booker? Okay, let's imagine that happens. Who's replacing him? Danielson? No, thank you.
Alexandra Pepper Day.
Pepper Day? No, thank you. Danielson? No, thank you.
Will Wheaton.
QT Marshall? Who's going to replace him? Will Washington. Will Washington's one of the core people involved in all the Swerve stuff.
Oh, boy.
How's that working out?
What's he got against Swerve?
It's his cousin.
Oh, well, fuck. They sure ain't kissing cousins, because you'd have to hate a motherfucker to book him like that.
It's easy to point to guys like us and say, you're the problem. Just love wrestling. Just accept that wrestling is wrestling and love all of it, no matter what. There's a real fucking loss of reality when it comes from AEW. AEW can't accept reality in 2024. And right now, it is a sinking ship that nobody believes in.
And I'm going to say this one more time for the cognitively deficient out there that don't get, because Cornette hates him. I've said this from the start. I will repeat it for the people who haven't picked up on it yet. Not the cult of Cornette members out there, but the stray outsiders that we get trying to listen to the program and understand the words coming out of my mouth when they don't pay close attention. This was our chance. This was everybody's chance. The reason we are so mad about the shitty AEW product and the shit job that Tony's done with the whole thing is not because we dislike him personally or we didn't want anybody to get paid, but because this was our chance to have another wrestling promotion with real television and real talent on the roster and a mainstream profile. Even if we're not mad at the WWE anymore because the goddamn, elderly billionaire pervert is gone and it's a new day, that doesn't mean that we want to see the WWE goddamn product exclusively and only for the rest of our lives. We wanted our sports-based wrestling presentation that turned out to be a goddamn indie-rific mud show extravaganza with a bunch of little jack-offs friends. But what we were promised and what we were hoping for is not what we got, and that's why I'm pissed off, because I won't live long enough to see somebody get a chance to do it again. If they ever do, maybe none of you'll live long enough. because nobody's going to come along with the stupid amount of money that Tony had at his disposal and get these after this, especially once you've shit the bed on a national television stage. A lot of these networks are going to go, oh, we don't want any wrestling besides the WWE because, yeah, that other one had all the bells and whistles and a billionaire behind it, and it fucking tanked and the ratings went down. And this was our chance to have another wrestling promotion, and this is the one that Tony gave us. That's why I'm pissed. He had the money, the means, and the connections to do something that nobody else would have been able to do, and something that everybody could have been proud of. He didn't have the common sense to realize that he couldn't fucking do it. He could pay for it. He could make it happen. He would have been the hero to everybody. But he tried to goddamn fulfill his childhood fantasy. And instead of wanting to be a double knot spy or a fucking astronaut, he wanted to be a booker and a promoter. And he booked and promoted the talent that he likes, that he liked on the indies, that he liked on the E-feds, that he liked when other people that were in their fucking basements, instead of going out and getting a blowjob, would give him good feedback on. And so this is what we got. Children's Outlaw Wrestling. Cow.
And I just get upset because the people who know better, who still pretend on social media, who don't want to call out Tony Khan.
Well, but this is wrestling. There's always going to be people that are going to take his fucking money.
It's not just people take his money. It's people that, really just don't want to call him out for one reason or another. And, I think if you look at the outside interests outside of the patent, outside of Flexingate for the Khan family, did he just buy a bunch of businesses to put his kid in charge? And how many of them have actually done well? We've seen a recent thing. I saw Dave Meltzer put this up, and it was astounding how dumb this was. That Tony was a billionaire on his own, and that his analytics company is a major player. He's not a billionaire. Everything he has is because his dad just handed it to him. What has he taken that his dad gave him and made bigger or better? What sports franchise does he work with where he's not openly mocked by anyone who knows anything about that franchise? It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we all have to pretend because he's a really big fan, and he is a big fan. He just doesn't understand it, and he thinks he does. But that was AEW Dynamite.
It sure was. And this is your show.
Well, let's end with the ratings here of this week, Jim. Well, Jim, let's go to these ratings. AEW Dynamite on TBS, May 8th, 2024, from 8 to 10:08 p.m., on average, was watched by 711,000 viewers.
Remember, it was just a couple of months ago that I would always say, okay, what's the number? 800 and what thousand?
It was a big deal maybe a year and a half ago when they dropped below 900.
And now I'm saying, okay, what is it? 700 and what thousand? So here we are at 711, baby. Boxcars, big bennies. That's an old Abbott and Costello routine.
But again, a lot of competition, and I'm a great example this week because I would have watched the AEW show live, but they chased me off with their bad show, and I went to watch the Knick game. So when you always hear about the strength of the NBA, how many of those people are people that were going to watch the NBA no matter what? And how many were people that were wrestling fans going to give the wrestling show a chance? They're like, nah, fuck this. I'm going somewhere else.
They do the NBA playoffs every year. We made that comment, but also for the first time almost ever, I didn't watch the thing live. I waited till about 8:30 so I could still zip through commercials and fucking slow spots, but I watched it on Wednesday night, as I mentioned, so I could have a pleasant Thursday morning. But nevertheless, we got 711 as the main number. Where'd we start and where'd we finish? You do the dirty work here. You read it out. I don't want to do your dirty work no more.
All right, there was no reason to sing, but we have these numbers. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. 8 to 8:15 p.m. quarter one. The Adam Copeland backstage promo And Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta with picture-in-picture, 768,000 viewers.
And that's what I said. They've killed the Big Bang Theory's ratings. They used to get 1 million. They used to get 900,000. They at least had some amount of people handed off to them. Now the fucking Big Bangers have said, fuck it, we're going to tune out 30 minutes early just so we don't accidentally see any of that wrestling program.
Well, quarter two, 8:15, 8:30 p.m., more of that wrestling program, the continuation of Cassidy versus Beretta, the post-match with Don Callis and Chris Statlander, the Elite's angle, or arrival, whatever it was, the Jack Perry promo, an ad break, Kenny Omega's hospital promo, and the start of Serena Dee on the ramp. 696,000 viewers.
Ew, okay. So we asked that question earlier. How much can you stand of old Pockets after 15 minutes of Pockets and then the Buckaroos show up? They lose 72,000 people.
Well, we go to quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m., the continuation of the Dee Barant promo and the confrontation with Toni Storm, the beginning of Mariah May versus Harley Cameron with picture-in-picture, 731,000 viewers.
Holy so
he really did run them off. That's the point.
He not only ran them off, but when they thought the coast was clear, they came back.
For Serena
they
Dee on the ramp.
Yes. The worst thing they could have come back for. 31 to 35,000 of them came back, half of what they had lost. So how many people made it through the Serena Dee address to the nation?
Quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The finish of May versus Cameron with the post-match with Saraya and Mina Shirakawa. That's how you say it.
Kissy girl.
Pac and the Bullet Club Gold's backstage angle, Malachi Black's video, an ad break, a recap, and Swerve Strickland's live promo begins. 724,000 viewers.
So they stayed about flat. They only lost 7,000. Not bad. To get to their average, they apparently there's going to be a precipice here shortly. But well, what did the top of the 9 o'clock hour do with the new world champion in the ring?
The big 9 o'clock hour, quarter five. I'm going to tell you this in advance. Both the overall number and the key demo number are both in line or slightly above the trend line for this quarter. 9 to 9:15 p.m. Swerve Strickland's confrontation with Christian Cage and the Mogul Embassy turning on him, Willow Nightingale's backstage promo, and Rocky Romero versus Jay White with picture-in-picture, 787,000 viewers, and 369,000 in the key demo. That's the high point of the key demo.
And that's also the high point of the show.
Yes.
And
to see Swerve get his ass kicked by
to see Swerve emasculated, neutered, his testicles sliced from him and shoved in his own fucking mouth. Well, it's good to know they got a big number when it counted. Oh my God. All right.
We go to quarter six. Let's see how much more counts. Quarter six, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Romero versus White, the post-match with the Gun Club and Pac, Samoa Joe's video, an ad break, and the Big Bill and Chris Jericho match starts. 718,000 viewers.
So again, now they're down another 69,000 after their high point, and that's the second lowest number so far in the program.
Well, the Chris Jericho match continued into the next quarter.
I have a feeling that record's about to be broken.
Quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m., the continuation of the Big Bill Chris Jericho tag match, Jericho's live promo, an ad break, and the start of Adam Copeland versus Brody King with picture-in-picture, 665,000 viewers.
Oh, and we have a new low, and they just lost another 53,000 people, making it 122,000 over the course of 30 minutes. And Edge is in the biggest mainstream star they currently now have on the roster. And he's got the low point so far.
Yeah, I don't know. He's kind of been exposed too. Quarter 8. We have an overrun also, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Continuation of Copeland versus Brody King with picture-in-picture on the post-match with Kyle O'Reilly. 628,000 viewers, 266 in the key demo. And finally, 8-minute overrun, Mercedes Moné live promo, the Elite Jack Perry promo in confrontation with FTR, Eddie Kingston, and Bryan Danielson. 654,000 viewers.
And that was basically, 26,000 people that were expecting Modern Family. Wow, all right.
So again, show wide. You know, the beginning of the show, you have Orange Cassidy's feud with the Best Friends. That's not resonating with their people. That's not working. Then you have the women's stuff. That actually recovered a little bit from the Orange Cassidy stuff.
Yeah.
Swerve, this right now is the time. They have to figure out what they're going to do because he's about to become a big missed opportunity. The fans chose Swerve. Swerve has something that he's quickly losing week by week, but they came back for that. Jay White causes people to turn off their TV. Chris Jericho in 2024 causes people to turn the channel.
Sometimes it causes people to sell their television, I think. That may be the cause of the drop in television viewership, not cutting the cord or streaming, but Chris Jericho.
Adam Copeland versus Brody King. You could put Adam Copeland against Moses right now. Nobody wants to see Adam Copeland. He's exhausted everyone.
Hey, now, I'll tell you what, Moses has been booked strong, though. He's still a fucking name.
Yeah, no, he's a bigger name. Adam Copeland, I think, has made people sick of his matches. These long, exhausting matches where the crowds go silent. And it's not working. And Edge was a big star in WWE. Edge is not a big star in AEW. Or Adam Copeland's not a big star now. I don't know how you want to say it, but it's not working. And then finally, Mercedes Moné, that's bombing.
Woo.
And then the Elite's big angle with Team AEW. Because when you think of AEW, the first names you think of are FTR, Eddie Kingston, and Bryan Danielson. That's got no one. No one said, you know what? I got to see what's going on with this game. Let me turn back for a few minutes just to see how they're going to resolve any of this. Nobody does. Not to compare anything to Vince and Austin, but if they were doing something with the owner of the company and a top heel, they would probably make it so that you kind of had to tune back in to see something.
Yeah.
AEW doesn't do that. You never have to tune back in to see anything. And those are the ratings.
They certainly are.